The Democrats' anti-DOGE choir is back with a fresh new track that's almost as painful as Greg's bumping music. Those liberal lunatics capping off another week of anti-Elon rallies, raging against the waste management wizards. DOGE now has a website that's keeping score on all the government slop they're digging up. Case in point, the Department of Education just had to slash grants to 4 equity assistance centers, blowing $33 million of your taxpayer cash on things like this workshop on whiteness.
Today's virtual roundtable is entitled Identifying and Disrupting Your Whiteness, a workshop addressing power and privilege toward anti-racist spaces.
And we just got an exclusive clip. Sean Hannity sitting down with President Trump and Elon Musk for their first joint interview. Let's watch.
You're both aware, you have to be keenly aware, that the media and the punditry class, not that, I think you've proven they have no power anymore because they threw everything they had at you and they didn't win. And that was, the New York Times, Washington Post, 3 networks, every late night comedy show, 2 cable channels. They threw everything, lawfare, weaponization.
Sure.
And now I see they want you two to start, they want a divorce. They want you two to start hating each other. And they try, President Elon Musk, for example. You do know that they're doing that to you.
Oh, I see it all the time. They tried it, then they stopped. That wasn't, they have many different things of hatred. Actually, Elon called me. He said, they're trying to drive us apart. I said, absolutely. They said, we have breaking news. Donald Trump has ceded control of the presidency to Elon Musk. President Musk will be attending a cabinet meeting tonight at 8 o'clock. And I say, It's just so obvious. They're so bad at it. I used to think they were good at it. They're actually bad at it, because if they were good at it, I'd never be president. Because I think nobody in history has ever gotten more bad publicity than me. I could do the greatest things. I get 98% bad publicity. I could do, outside of you and a few of your very good friends, it's like the craziest thing. But you know what I have learned, Elon? The people are smart. They get it.
Yeah, they do, actually.
They get it. They really see what's happening.
Yes.
That interview airs next Tuesday at 9 o'clock Eastern. All right, Judge Janine, more singing from the Democrats.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying that?
I have to tell you that there is no better way for the Democrats to continue to destroy themselves than to continue on this mission that they have with the F Trump and F Elon and the singing, when the American people are like, we get this, just the way the President Trump was saying, we get this. We want to know where all the expenditures are going. I just said to someone, did you know that $22 billion went to illegals from Joe Biden over 2 years, I think actually a year and a half, for them to buy a house and buy a car and start a business when senior citizens and veterans are, homeless or trying to figure out medication or food. So I just hope the Democrats continue to go down that road. Now, 14 attorney generals across the country are now suing, saying that Elon Musk doing this is a violation of the Appointments Clause, and he lacks Senate confirmation, and he's got too much private information at his hands. You know what? It's nothing more than politically motivated attempt to destroy and hide. Because as a prosecutor, I say to myself, who is against exposing fraud and corruption? Okay, the ones who are at risk of being charged with fraud and corruption. And, the ones who favor a bureaucracy. And let the Dems do it. They'll lose again.
We're seeing polling in Arizona from swing state people. Kennedy, they want them to keep going. They say keep cutting. They love it.
And it was actually a very interesting polling group, because it was people who had voted for Biden in 2020 who then switched their votes to Trump in 2024, because Bidenomics, as was the case for most people in the country, it didn't work out for them. So it didn't work out for them because their taxes are too high, eggs are too expensive. People still are having a hard time making mortgage payments and paying the rent and affording college and everything else. So now they're realizing where that hard-earned tax money is actually going. And the more we hear about $160 million going to a Canadian electric school bus factory that has now declared bankruptcy and never made good on their promise to deliver school buses, 100 million of them, to 55 school districts in the country, like, that's where my money has gone. They actually want more of it, because the feeling is if you cut out entire departments and if you shed sunlight on all of this waste and abuse, then maybe taxes will finally come down. Then maybe federal expenditures will come down. And I'm shocked that Democrats haven't gotten on board with this and gone, you know what? We're not helping people if we're squirreling this money away to projects that do absolutely nothing. We're Democrats. We're the party of the working man. So let's ferret out the abuse and find better, less expensive ways to truly help people. But they're not doing that, and that's dumb.
Why can't they just have a reasonable position, Harold, where they thread the needle and say, yeah, we don't need the sex changes for the Guatemalans. You know, we don't need the DEI operas, but maybe we could just do this in a little bit of a more constitutional way.
Good to be with you, Kennedy. Good to see you. I think, and happy Valentine's Day. I think a couple things.
Well, Harold, thank you. I didn't think we were at that level.
We're not, okay. Nor will we ever be. But I was really wishing all of the viewers happy Valentine's Day. I'd say, I think that Kennedy touches on something with the Arizona swing voters. And Democrats need to be mindful. These were Democrats, or at least voted Democrat, then voted Republican this last go round. How they're perceiving this and how they're evaluating. This is the group that Democrats, I think, those that are singing outside the agencies and outside the Capitol, I think this is the group they're trying to appeal to, but they're not. A separate survey that Gallup conducted showed that 45% of Democrats think that Democrats need to be more moderate. It's an 11-point increase from just 3 or 4 years ago. These are the things we should be taking note of. Now, what President Trump and Mr. Musk and others are doing with this DOGE and some of the other things, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. This is only 4 weeks in here. We've got a long way to go. Democrats, if you are serious about wanting to reform government, then offer your own ideas. Offer other ideas to make government operate more efficiently. Offer more ideas to help cut spending and to bring our deficit down and to help tackle this enormous $36 or $37 trillion deficit that we have. I think Donald Trump knows something as well. If we're 6 months from today, or when we're 6 months from today, and he is still not engaging Congress, I think right now not engaging Congress is serving him well. A Democrat, Republican alike, they can't wrap their heads around the speed and the scale in which he is operating at this point. But if you, in that same poll of Arizona voters, it showed that people are giving the president a little latitude and benefit of the doubt on inflation. If we found ourselves with high prices like we have today, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, and Republicans can't come together in the House and the Senate around a border security bill, which they seem to be squabbling about right now, even a long-term budget deal, we may have a different conversation. But as we sit here today, Jesse, I agree with you, and I agree with Kennedy. This is not a moment to be singing outside of agencies. This is a moment to get serious about a plan, about a set of ideas, and frankly, how we would make government operate more efficiently.
If you could doge one thing at this table, Harold, would it be Greg's collar?
I like Greg's collar.
I'd let him doge it.
Doge.
Yes. A different turn.
Greg?
Jesse.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
You look great.
And thank you for the chocolates.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I know
you.
Belgian's your favorite.
You know, you asked Harold about, can they do a reasonable position? It's hard because that lane is taken. When you say reasonable position, you mean common sense. So that's the high ground, and there's nothing around a high ground. I'm not interested in saying that the Democrats suck. Leave that to outnumbered. I say right now you suck, but here's what you got to do to get out of it. I think a lot of Dems, people watch this show. There are more Democrats watching this show than CNN and MSNBC combined. So they come here for some kind of free therapy, and I'm here to give it to you because I actually want them to join us. And the Democrats have a choice to join the good guys or become a Bond villain. Because if you're going to defend waste, fraud, and abuse, you are basically embracing the life of a Bond villain. Actually, it's worse than that. It's like do you ever watch a zombie movie and you go like, it would be just so much easier to get bitten and become a zombie? Because then you're no longer terrified.
Never considered that.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I go like, just get bitten. That's what I think that a lot of Dems are doing, is that they're embracing a role that is just easier, but it forbids them from ever becoming the good guy. They're becoming a zombie. And I think this is a bigger moment than maybe most people realize. This is, I think, the biggest political moment since the fall of communism. In that case, that end was definitive. The wall comes down, USSR dissolves. Suddenly, communism just evaporates, except in colleges. For the Democrats, the wall has come down. And many of their leaders sense that the Democrat Party of before is dead. It's not in need of a rebrand. It's in need of a full body and mind transplant. And it's really hard to do that when you still have that stuff, the singing, the equity, the DEI. I don't think you can underestimate how wokeness, which is fueled by identity politics, essentially cultural Marxism, infected the party and ate it out, devoured it from the inside. In a way, it's very similar to what happened to USSR, except it happened to a party, not a country. So I think that the Dems, my advice is to stop thinking about the role as an adversary to Trump. You have to ask yourself, what are we? You may find out that you're not anything anymore. And then you have to decide, what does that mean? Do I leave this party? Do we start something new? What would that new thing be? Because it's really hard to find an oppositional point to Trump because he's neither conservative, right? He's neither liberal. He's basically a populist. And it's hard to get footing when the guy's picking 80-20 popular issues. It's like when you said, a reasonable position, every one of them is taken.
And you're welcoming Democrats to go on this road of self-discovery here on the 5.
I think that I think that it's very hard to join the good guys if it's a blow to your ego and the opportunity costs that you've already dropped into your side.
Greg, I give you even more credit. I think it's the Republican Party and Democrat Party, as we know it today, that is flummoxed and, frankly, has to reinvent itself.
I think you're right.
And it's Trump that's going to organize it.
It's bigger than we ever thought.
Live look at Lower Manhattan now, where attorneys general from New York and Connecticut are speaking to the press about their efforts to stop Elon Musk's DOGE team from accessing Americans' private information and sensitive data. They join other Democrats, union leaders, and advocates trying to stop the federal budget cutting and restrict Musk's access to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. However, our next guest argues that that's exactly what the American public voted for. Let's bring in Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor and a constitutional law professor. In fact, let me read from your brilliance, if I could, Professor. You said in USA Today, Democrats call Musk and DOGE evil, but Trump is doing what Americans want. Federal employees are entitled to protections in their employment, but they're not entitled to permanent employment. Congress is entitled to appropriate money for specific purposes, but it's not entitled to manage the executive branch. Trump is very willing to fight on this hill. He holds a strong constitutional position and an even stronger political position. And it's true, because it seems that the more Democrats fight him, the more popular he becomes.
Oh, no. I mean, what do you think Trump could ask for more than to have Letitia James standing up at length about her plans on how the federal government should run? It seems like everyone is trying to make that decision, from judges to state officials to members of Congress, everyone except the person who is delegated with that task under Article 2, who is the President of the United States. And these judges have already gotten ahead of their skis. You know, you had the judge who originally enjoined the effort to allow employees to take this deferred buyout. And when he did that, this judge enjoined it, and many of us just scratched our heads and we have no idea, no inkling how you could view this as unconstitutional. Clearly, the president has that authority, and ultimately the judge lifted that injunction. But I expect you're going to find a lot of these early injunctions will shake out. Some of them will hold their ground and be reversed. Others, you'll see the administration modifying its position. But trust me on this. At the end of the day, this government's going to shrink. This president was elected to reduce the size of government. He's allowed to do that. And there are issues here about Privacy Act issues. Also, Congress can dedicate funds. All of that will shake out as well. But these Democrats are trying to slow down the effort to reduce the government. And frankly, John, one of the most alarming things for me was to see Senator Warren, Senator Kaine from Virginia, telling employees, don't trust this offer. It's a scam. And at the time, I was saying, you know, that's a rather dangerous disinformation. These employees want this deal. Their own unions are opposing something they want, but it's not a scam. The government is bound by this deal.
And what the Democrats were saying basically was, you can't trust the federal government because the salaries of the employees of the federal government are backed by the federal government, the full faith and credit of the United States of America. So they were basically saying, don't trust your own country. The messaging to me, I mean, you said, how could it get better than Letitia James going after Trump? I don't know if you saw it the other day, that song that the Democrats were singing on Capitol Hill that Will Cain played on his show. That came close. Okay, so 14 states are suing to stop Trump and taking aim at Elon Musk. The lawsuit says, in part about Musk, there's no greater threat to democracy than the accumulation of state power in the hands of a single unelected individual. President Trump has delegated virtually unchecked authority to Mr. Musk without proper legal authorization from Congress and without meaningful supervision of his activities. I mean, if you're going to choose anyone to conduct an audit of the federal government, it might be advantageous to have the richest man in the world do it because you know he's not after the money.
Well, I agree, John, but simply this dog won't hunt. I mean, the fact is that he is allowed to have Musk working through the White House. They have Treasury people and other officials now part of DOGE. Congress has a parallel DOGE committee. The IGs are doing their own investigation along the same lines. All of that is permissible. And as for Musk himself, look, when Musk went into Twitter, he fired about 90% of that staff, and people said, this will shut down Twitter, and it did not. Twitter has bounced back, and it's functioning with that smaller force. Now, does that mean you can do that with the federal government? No, it's not that simple, but you couldn't find a guy that has a more clear eye as to reduction of force.
So, Sandra, look, the U.S. Treasury's central payment system is known as the Bureau of Fiscal Service. And this is at the heart of Elon Musk and DOGE's mission to try to rein in government spending. Why? Because 90% of the U.S. government spending, that's $5 trillion a year, runs through this Treasury system. And this is how most money is dispersed to federal agencies, including Social Security payments, veterans benefits, tax refunds, and federal grant money that's given to states like Medicaid. It also contains Americans' personal financial information, Social Security numbers, bank routing numbers, addresses, tax refunds. And so, according to the Government Accountability Office, estimates up to 10% of the money in this system could be lost every year to fraud. So Musk and DOGE want direct access to this payment system to quickly block or redirect federal funds, to conduct independent audits, and ultimately to overhaul this entire system with new technology using AI to detect fraud. Now, right now, New York Attorney General Letitia James is leading an effort by those 19 state AGs to get a federal judge to issue a preliminary injunction to continue blocking Elon Musk and DOGE from accessing the system. They say the world's richest man should not have unfettered access to Americans' financial information, and they say this is unconstitutional, that this is Congress's job to deal with federal funding. Just moments ago, Sandra, I asked the attorneys general of New York and Connecticut why they are impeding this new effort to try to make our government more efficient. What do you have to say to those that say that you are impeding a serious and honest effort to try to get the government to work better and to rein back waste and out-of-control spending before it's even had a chance to really take off?
Listen, all of us are concerned about waste, fraud in our federal government and in all governments, but you should work with Congress. That's how the system works, not by, again, special employees who have not been vetted, who have not been proved by the United States Senate.
Nobody is saying that they can't try to make government more efficient. We try to do that every single day in our offices, but do it in compliance with the law. Follow the law.
I mean, they're not giving an opportunity to get on board. I mean, what Elon Musk is doing is having teenagers named Big Balls just rampage through government agencies and fire people left and right. There's no working with Congress. There's Republican majorities in the House and the Senate. Why not work with Congress to
well, members
go
of
through
Congress
the
are
budget?
out yelling in the streets using the F word, and independent voters are making it pretty clear that
some of them at least, that they're pretty much in favor of the way that they're going about this. Look at this one from Axios Focus Group. All of these people voted for Biden and then they voted for Trump in 2024. Courtney L. says, how are we going to make big changes? If someone like Trump is being unconventional, we need him to do these things, to be making these executive orders and making these big changes for big things to happen.
Voters didn't vote for Trump because they wanted NIH to cut research into cures for cancer. They did not vote to cut programs that monitor Ebola outbreaks all around the world. They did not vote to hamstring the United States in our competition with China, because China's running around the world building infrastructure projects through the Belt and Road Initiative. Sure. And USAID is the counterpart that we use to fight back and build roads in countries all around the world.
There is a lot of garbage in these programs. And then, fortunately, these programs have taken advantage of American largesse to push their money into things that once people discovered them, they said, wait a minute, this is not how we want our tax dollars to be spent. And it's very interesting because when you look back at President Obama, when he was talking about how to get Obamacare done, here's what he said way back then.
We've estimated that most of this plan can be paid for by finding savings within the existing healthcare system, a system that is currently full of waste and abuse.
People have been hearing this for decades, Tommy, and it looks like it takes someone from the outside to pry open the books and actually get some of this garbage out of there.
Again, Obamacare was paid for through taxes, savings in the health system, et cetera. What Elon Musk is doing is giving 19-year-olds named Big Balls the keys to the kingdom at the Treasury Department and letting them literally cut off payments to agencies that they don't understand.
You don't think
they
there's
are burning
enough waste
down
in
government
there to get
buildings
rid of?
and admiring the
why
flames.
is it that nobody has
These are
succeeded
not
in this
popular.
before?
Sorry, what was that?
Well, I just think that government has tried and failed miserably in this regard.
Donald Trump is president. He has Republican majorities in the House and the Senate. Why not work with Congress? Republicans are in control of everything. They could go through the budget line by line and do this in consultation with Congress. Instead, they're letting Elon Musk rampage through the government. By the way, Elon Musk has not released his personal financial disclosure. We don't know anything about the conflicts of interest or the data he's getting access to that might help him in his business ventures. So this is a huge problem, and I do not think voters support what's happening here.
Harris, listen, we treasure our jobs in Parkersburg, West Virginia. We want to continue to have those jobs. It's all about community and everything else. These are accountants and everything, but they need to be at work. I mean, there's no question they need to be at work. And I think the bottom line of the whole thing is the Democrats are running through the streets with their hair on fire and trying to just whip people up and scare people to death. The strategy that they had in the previous election, and they got doors blown off. And so we'll see what happens and everything. We're just very, very thankful that we're getting rid of a whole bunch of waste all across this nation, and it's long overdue.
You know what? I love where you started there, because what you're talking about is the human element in all of this. And it is a fine line that you walk when you know you have to cut the waste, and yet there are real people who will be affected by this. And what you're saying is, look, and I'm going to ask my team to pop this up right now. This is the current debt. We have a clock here, and I know they have them online too. But here at Fox, we created our very own For the Faulkner Focus. That's the debt going up every second of the day. And so, Congressman, what you're talking about is this is going to get done.
Well, at the end of the day, we elected President Trump and let him do his job. I mean, for crying out loud, let him get his team in place and let him do his job. And absolutely, I say this, because I talk in just plain talk. Harris, the Democrats, and I'm a new kid on the block in the Senate, and watching the liberal Democrats in Washington, D.C. is absolutely shocking to me. Why in the world you would absolutely defend this unbelievable amounts of waste, and they continue to do it. Yeah. They act like, I would say, how many cows are in the field? Just count the egg-sucking cows. What they want to do is they want to say, no, let's count the legs and divide by 4. And if we do that, maybe it will confuse it. We'll confuse it so much we won't be able to figure it out. But let President Trump do his job. He's an absolute superstar in my book, and he is absolutely going to do it, and we're so proud of him.
All right. Well, Democrats are lashing out after Elon Musk's comment this week on the billions of dollars of fraudulent federal spending. Let's watch together.
I have been hearing that my entire lifetime, that all we have to do is find this magical waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, if it's so easy, how come it hasn't happened my entire lifetime?
Don't believe the fraud, waste, abuse, inefficiency. They are dismantling this system to delay until dead.
The problem is what you're hearing from Elon Musk and Donald Trump and other Republicans who are repeating misinformation.
Nobody has any idea what Elon Musk is doing, including the president, including my friend from Texas, who has no idea whether Elon Musk has found fraud or not.
Well, same from the liberal media in terms of their reaction all over. The New York Times with the headline, "At Oval Office, Musk makes broad claims of federal fraud without proof." ABC News with Trump, Musk so far provide scant evidence for their claims of government fraud. But in the fall of last year, the Government Accountability Office found, quote, the federal government could be losing between $233 billion and $521 billion annually to, wait for it, fraud. Most of that from the Treasury, Labor, and Veterans Affairs departments. It's all right there on the agency's website. You don't even have to look far. Just Google it. The Wall Street Journal editorial board dug into those numbers, and it found those billions of dollars in fraud and unemployment benefits, employee tax credits, Medicare, Medicaid, also millions in COVID benefit payments, and in the Social Security Administration's master death file. Congressman, it's not that hard to find the receipts.
No, it's not. And absolutely, I don't know how in the world our liberal friends could not see that. But with all that being said, Harris, I think you do a phenomenal job. You do it every day. And if I could just add one thing, just imagine just this. Just dumb it down. Make it really simple. Let's just say that a man shows up in your driveway and knocks on the door and says, there's a man standing out there in the street, and if you'll give him 2 minutes, he can save you real money at your house. He can maybe save you money on your taxes, or on your water bill, your power bill, and everything else. There's not a family in America that would say, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Well, of course we need to do that. We all need to do that. This is just common sense. We don't need to be sending tens of millions of dollars to people to teach them about Sesame Street, or tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars to terrorist groups to absolutely teach them DEI. Absolutely. We got to wake up in America and get ourselves on the right foot. And I'm a wholehearted believer that the Trump administration, and thank goodness for Elon Musk, that he's absolutely willing to do this.
Willing to do it.
And asking for nothing.